Hello, BookTube. I know it's Wednesday and not Tuesday, but I am once again the belle of the ball when it comes to tags. I've been tagged a couple of times more. Really good ones. So I thought I would do both of them today. Why not? Who knows how long this little honeymoon of popularity will last before I go back to being an outcast, a leper, a pariah. So the first one that I want to do is the 20 Bookish Questions tag, which was made by The Active Mind. I will leave a link to his channel down below. I've recommended his channel many times before. We are frenemies. we are broski frenemies. And I want all of you to do this. I wish that every BookTube channel, large, medium, and small, I wish they would all do this. This is the kind of get to know you tag that is a variation on the BookTube newbie tag or the philosophy of reading tag. They're well worth doing. Because we should all keep in mind, even if your channel is very, very small, we should keep in mind we are always attracting new bots. And they don't know anything about the lay of the land. So they haven't sent enough of their spiders collecting on our data to know the lay of the land. So telling us a little more, giving Elon Musk a little more data about ourselves is always worthwhile to do. So this is just 20 questions, 20 bookish questions that we'll go through here. A lot of them will be familiar to you, but maybe not. So let's see. Question number 1. How many books is too many books in a series? I think the number it should be determined by the believability. I know that when Brock is asking this question, he is talking about fiction. It seems to be just the default on BookTube, no matter what. No matter how many years of nonfiction November that we have, it just seems to be the default that we're going to be talking about fiction. I would say that it's how much that the premise can bear. If the number of books on the premise it makes it just ridiculous, just a cartoon, then you've gone too far. So, for instance, the Aubrey and Maturin books. Of course, I wish there were 20 more of them than there are. There are 20 or so of them, but they make sense. They don't strain the premise because they follow Jack Aubrey in his career in the Royal Navy. So we get him young enough and follow him long enough, just like the Hornblower novels did before him. That makes sense. Likewise true with the Flashman books. I want there to be more of them, and no matter how many there are, they make sense, because Flashy had lots of disreputable adventures. But something like Murder, She Wrote, for instance, is their books. There was a TV show. The TV show is an infamous example of how this just wouldn't work anymore at all. The premise is ridiculous. It has been stretched to the point of ridiculous. And the same thing is true with a lot of murder mysteries, a lot of police procedurals, a lot of tough guy PI novels. Once your main character has just randomly had 50 adventures in which their life is threatened, in which a loved one is killed, in which a neighbor or a friend is killed, in which a dead body is found in their basement, or another dead body is found in their basement. Oh, they said, this house is cursed, I'm going to move to a condo on the coast, and no sooner do they break out the china than a body is found in that basement. That once that starts to happen, like Alex Delaware, Jonathan Keller's Alex Delaware novels. I love Kellerman's books, but they are absurd. They are completely absurd. It's one thing if the premise makes a number of books natural, but so many don't, and I understand that. I mean, almost all writers, remember what it was like when they were just wretched book reviewers scrabbling for every $50. So they hit something. They have a hit with something. The audience is unpredictable. You can't guarantee what they'll like and not like. If they start coming in droves to a certain character, you're going to bring that character back. Usually you are. So I understand it. There reaches a point where I will still read those books, but I'm laughing the whole time when I know that I'm not supposed to be, when the drama of the books is supposed to be telling me not to. Next question. How do you feel about cliffhangers? If they're done well, I love them. And also, I'm quite good at them. I'm very good at writing a very effective cliffhanger. The measuring stick, the yardstick of a good cliffhanger is, what would you do? How much would you give to know the next two sentences? Not, I guess that's a cliffhanger. Well, I guess I'll mark my calendar for when the next installment comes. Not that, but, oh my God, you've got to tell me what happens next. Oh my God, you've got to tell me what happens next. Those kind of cliffhangers, when they're effectively done, I'm a huge fan of them. In the non-bookish world, one of the greatest examples that I can think of was the end of the season of The West Wing, where someone takes a shot at President Bartlett. Shots ring out at his entourage after a speech. And it was the final episode of the season. There was no cable at the time. There was no internet, barely any internet at the time. The season was done, and you were going to deal with repeats of The West Wing until the fall season started next year. So this episode, we see shots firing, we see people flying in all directions, the crowd is screaming, and then the screen goes dark, and before the credits roll, we hear someone on a police speaker saying, "Who's been hit? Who's been hit?" And then the credits roll. The show is over. And you're just hanging there in midair, and there's nothing you can do. There's no way that you're ever going to know how that happens until you wait all the time for the next episode, when I don't think there was a single person who was watching The West Wing at the time that got to the end of that episode who wouldn't have given a digit off a finger to get the next 2 minutes. So I'm a big fan of cliffhangers if they're done right. The next question is hardcover or paperback. This question comes from Brock's world. Brock lives in the 1950s, and I assume he's a good, upstanding citizen there. He goes on in his videos, he says it in this video, but in other videos he will say, I'm really looking for this particular book. It's just so hard to find. I keep an eye out for it. I go to used bookstores whenever we travel. I go to used bookstores when we're relocating in order to spawn and raise offspring. Good Lord. I try so hard with these people. They always end up being breeders. It's great. I don't know where I go wrong. Not that I'm bemoaning little Steve or Stevina. I'm sure they will be a delightful child. But he always goes on like that. And this question is another example. Hardcover or paperback? Which do you prefer? Because you got no alternative. There's no alternative to hardcover or paperback. I prefer ebooks. I prefer this little blue device. The last 11 books that I have read, all 11 on this device. I've not touched a physical book except for some literary essays by James Russell Wallace, Charles Russell Lowell, which I could easily have read on this because they're on Project Gutenberg. I just happen to have the book next to the nightstand. Other than that, all this. But if I have to choose between the two options that were available in the 1950s or the 1960s, I would say the usual. I would say hardcover for durability and a paperback for convenience and portability. I was there for the so-called mass market revolution in the book world, where all of a sudden book stalls, book stands, bookstores were being flooded with these cheap, affordable, incredibly portable, easy little mass market paperbacks. A perfect invention. And I loved it. But they aren't very durable. And you can't do anything with them. You can't really annotate them. You can't put anything inside them in terms of clippings or anything like that. Not at all. Then trade paperbacks came around, and you can do a little bit more with that. And they are still lightweight and still a little bit easier to pack, I guess, or to navigate. This is 10,000 books. That's pretty easy to navigate. but I guess this doesn't count. So then for all the other superiorities, it would be hardcovers. They are more cumbersome, they are heavier, they are less easy to use, but they're much more durable, and you can fill them with clippings. All the hardcovers here are filled with clippings. Then let's see. The next question is your favorite book. That would be the Metamorphoses of the Roman poet Ovid. And then the next question is your favorite author. That would be the Dutch humanist Erasmus. Then the next question is your ideal book length. I like a longer book. Really long. I know we just came off Shorty September, and I had a blast. I loved it. And a couple of books that I've read recently have been very short and very good. But I'm a fast reader. And when I read a book, I am totally consumed with that book. I'm not snacking or, answering pings on my phone or sipping Chardonnay or whatever. I'm not doing anything but reading. So I burn right through books. So the longer the book is, the more of an experience I have of the type that binds readers together, which is the feeling of being lost in a book, of spending time in a book. And I like that feeling as much as any other reader. So the longer the better, usually. What's the next prompt here? The next question. Most recent book you couldn't finish. I don't DNF books. I don't stop reading books anymore. I used to. But then I stopped working. I stopped being a productive member of society. All I do now is critique other productive members of society. Now that I have no demands on my time other than my own work, other than writing and reading. And I read, like I said, I read really fast, and I read a lot. I read a lot every day, and I am totally absorbed in what I read, so I blow right through books. And years and years ago, I decided, if that's the case, then there's really no reason, there's no justification for you to stop reading a book. I guess theoretically I could think of a couple of reasons why I would stop reading a book. Like if I weren't being paid to read it, and if the author were just lying to me, or obvious lies to me, well, there wouldn't be any reason to continue with that. But I tend to avoid those books now. I tend to avoid Trump books rather than commit to them. The next prompt is the book you're currently reading. Well, we're going to get to this. I am not currently reading a book, unless it's something that I just started, and then I started because I just finished a book. I start another one, but then I've got to get about my day, or something that I'm reading in the bathroom, like for instance this Agent in Place by Helen McGinnis. This is kind of a side project that I'm doing because we're coming up on Dr. November, a BookTube event all about espionage, and that event is naturally going to be saturated up to its eyeballs in male writers. And every time that happens, I always remember how much I love Helen McGinnis espionage novels. So I guess you could say this, but only because, finally, after hours and hours of waiting, my little dog wanted to get up. Otherwise, this would be the book that I just finished. I'm not usually, what I mean to say is I'm not usually working my way through a book. Let's see here. The next prompt is the last book you recommended to someone. I've got it right here. I had a fellow critic ask me about this. David Carradine's new little biography of Queen Elizabeth II. This person is doing a roundup of books for December for their publication, and wanted to know if this and a few other books were worth attention, or maybe worth their time to read. Because this particular person said, well, I know you're always telling me the books are worth my time to read, and then I look at them and they're like 1,000 pages long, but this one I think I could do. Is this one worth my time to read? And I wholeheartedly said yes. Yeah, it's really, really good. But it is not out yet. This paperback says that the pub date is September, but the pub date is actually December. So that's a case where I was talking with someone about a forthcoming book, which I do a lot, and recommended it. Then let's see here. The newest book that you've read by publication date. That would be Deterrence and Denial, The Power of Fleets in Being by S.C.M. Payne. It's not out yet. It's from the Naval Institute Press, and it's a very, very good. It's a very... Oh, we've got a commercial break coming up in the bright sunlight. Yeah. Now's the perfect time for me to talk to you about BetterHelp. I should do that. I should make there's a for those of you who are new to this channel, there's an ear-piercing siren break in every video that I make. Literally every video that I make. It's led a number of viewers of this channel to think I live in a war zone. I don't. I live on a main road. That's the problem here. It's a main road. It's very long. It's a completely straight line. There are no egresses or ingresses for probably 1.5 miles on one side. So it is a perfect opportunity for people to rev their engines, for people to drag race, and for sirens of every kind. There is no emergency. This is not a hell zone. But But what was I saying? Right. Deterrence and Denial, which is it's an anthology. A handful of naval experts look at not just examples of great naval fleets in history, but the idea of what the idea of those fleets did to the powers involved. Not the fleets themselves, but the idea of we have this massive fleet. What does that do? What does that do to the country's own defense spending budget? And what does it do to other nations? I thought it was, I mean, it's an anthology of different writers, so that's going to be uneven, but I thought it was really fascinating, especially in the ways that the non-military elements, the deterrence aspect of having a fleet, parallels what having a nuclear arsenal would be like. I loved it. I thought it was great. It won't have any mass distribution. It won't be in your bookstore. I don't know if I'll ever get a print copy, a physical copy. I would love it, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good. And the next prompt is the oldest book you have read by publication date. Well, I don't know what that means. I have read all the ancient works. So whichever one of those is the oldest. Is that Gilgamesh? Is that the Code of Hammurabi? I don't know. Whichever one of that is the oldest. They weren't really, in a technical sense, published, but of the books that were published, of the books that actually did go to a publisher and get someone to stamp out, get slaves to make many, many copies, I've read all of those too. I have no idea which is the oldest. Let's see. The next question is plays or short stories. For me, for reading, it's short stories. I'm a big fan of plays, but not to read them. Almost never to read them. And the ones that have tons and tons of stuff to read, like an incredibly prominent example would be Arthur Miller. When I read stuff like that, where every single glance of the eye is described in detail, I always want to say, why don't you just be a novelist? What are you doing? You can't control your actors like they were robots here. Just be a novelist. Otherwise, say so-and-so entered the room. And Miller never does that. But me, for reading, it would be short stories. Buying or borrowing books. I don't borrow books at all. I am periodically racked with guilt over the fact that I don't go to the Boston Public Library anymore. I used to go to the Boston Public Library quite a bit. I don't go to them anymore at all. And a large part of that, I hate to say it, since I know a lot of the people involved, a large part of that is the fault of the library. I have been in email contact, correspondence with pictures and everything, with a whole bunch of you for a long time. And I know from the pictures you've shown me and the tales you've told me that your library is excellent at getting and upkeeping new releases, which is what I like to read. And the Boston Public Library, either it is not, or it is really good at that and has millions of people borrowing them. I don't think it's the latter. I think it's just that they don't have good people on the job at it, in the way that, for instance, a small library in Iowa does. So some of you have local libraries that have 1/1000th the budget of the Boston Public Library that I would love to patronize your library. I would go every week. But not the Boston Public Library, no. And buying books? Oh, God. Well, I buy books at the Brattle Bookshop when I don't have credit, if you're asleep at the wheel. Just keep in mind, this is a parasocial relationship. You're supposed to call in store credit at the Brattle from me. Okay? If I have credit at the Brattle, then it's easy to just swap that for books. If I don't, then I'm willing to buy, but I'm willing to give the Brattle money. But buying new books? Ooh. No, that's what publicists are for. Let's see here. The next prompt is books you dislike that everyone else seems to love. And I've jotted down a few names here, just at random. There's Laszlo Krasznahorkai, a completely talentless author, who is loved for the fact that his books are mostly about rocks. There's David Foster Wallace, not a completely talentless person, but a writer who never learned to craft. Just wrote like you have diarrhea and is now canonized. And people are looking for the miracles to make it official. And I think his do-rags are holy objects. They've been known to cure people. There's Karl Ove Nelsgaard, There's Marcus Aurelius. In our circles, we call him just Marcus. There's John Fosse, or William Gass. There's Mircea Cartarescu, the author of Solenoid. That is named Solenoid, but the author's foremost desire is that the book actually be a solenoid battery. Because as I've said many times before, dude bro writers hate books. They hate writing. They hate reading. Dude bro readers hate reading. They like puzzle solving and hating women. They like the fact that, well, none of this book makes any sense at all. The writer isn't trying to make it make any sense, and it's 1,500 pages long. I'm not understanding anything that I'm reading, but boy, oh boy, I'm sure that no woman's going to open this thing. The author of the book Solenoid wishes that the book were, in fact, a solenoid battery. That would be better. Reading is a little femme. Who else have I got here? Clarice Lispector? Whole bunch of other people I could name here that are very popular in certain circles. They all stink. But what are you going to do? Let's see here. Bookmarks or dog ears? Well, I know this makes me a horrible traitor to the cause. I think that in his video, Brock says that I should be locked up and the key should be thrown away. But if I'm reading a print galley copy, I'm going to dog ear the pages. I'm going to turn down a page if I've noticed something. If I'm reading a print galley copy, so it's not the finished copy, and it's not an e-copy, so I can't just press on the page to make an annotation or to note something. If I'm doing that and I've got a little schnauzer on my chest who's sound asleep and doesn't want to be moved for the next 15 hours, and I'm working my way through the book and I'm not trusting that I'm going to remember where I saw some little detail, a typo or a name wrong or a name right, I'm going to dog ear the page. I probably wouldn't do that with the finished copy, but I'm going to do it with the advanced copy. It's just convenient. And in my own defense, that is only a work-related thing. That is only because I review books. I won't do that otherwise. If I get like a book from the Brattle, an old history like The Return of a King by Dalrymple, I'm looking at it over there on the shelf. If I'm reading that book, a print and paper copy of that book, no chance at all I'm going to write about it. Well, then I'll use a bookmark. I've got a bunch of tasseled bookmarks. I'll use a bookmark for that. I won't dog ear the pages at all. But if it's a workbook and it's not even the finished copy, I'm going to dog ear those pages. It's just too convenient. Let's see here. A book that you can always reread. For me, there's a roster of these things. Like about 20 books, like The Adventures of the Stories of Sherlock Holmes, or The Jungle Books, or Dracula, or Wuthering Heights, Pride and Prejudice. What's I got here? Jane Eyre, especially Jane Eyre. There's Pride and Prejudice, but there's also The Price of the Phoenix, another P&P book, a Star Trek novel called The Price of the Phoenix, which really doesn't have any literary merit. I just love it. I could reread it forever and ever. You can't always tell what that will be. Same thing with Steve Alton's novel Meg, but a giant killer prehistoric shark. But also the King James Bible and The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire by Edward Gibbon. I love both those books. Love them. Prescott as well, a now forgotten historian that I love reading them. Just love it. Could go through them over and over and over and over again, and have. Let's see here. Can you read while hearing music? Well, I'm sure I could. I wouldn't be paying attention to the music. If I did, I would be lost in the book, which is why I don't tend to do it. I don't tend to have music on because I'm not going to be paying any attention to it. Once I get into a book, it pulls me in completely. Whether I'm liking it or not, whether I'm smiling and singing or I'm arguing with, I'm still totally involved in the book. I'm not paying any attention to music. Then one POV or multiple POVs. Again, I'm assuming that this is mostly concentrated on fiction, on the made-up stories. And I could easily adapt it to nonfiction, because some very good nonfiction that I've read is multiple POV. I tend to like multiple POV, but only if the author's up for it. Especially in fiction. I have noticed in fiction that an author will give multiple POVs and they're all the same person. Each one has a different name on it. They all sound and look and notice the exact same things. So you weren't up to the task. You, the writer, weren't up to the task of doing that. You bit off more than you could chew. And let's see here. Do you read a book in one sitting or over multiple days? It's usually one sitting. It's never over multiple days just because I'm making my way through the page count. That almost never happens. Every once in a blue moon, it will. If there's a gigantic, complicated work, then I will put it down after a certain period and come back to it the next day. That's almost unheard of. Almost unheard of. No matter what comes up on the little blue Kindle, I just go straight at it and stick with it unless I am interrupted. Somebody could interrupt me, couldn't they, baby bean? Huh? What you think? Ooh. What's that? Oi, baby. Hi, baby girl. Oh, you're so pretty. You're so pretty. She is the only thing that could really interrupt me. So usually it's one sitting. I think in his video, Brock says that he has never actually read a whole book in one day. Maybe I heard that wrong. I would assume that everybody has read a whole book in one day, at least once. I mean, The Red Badge of Courage, at least. But maybe not. You never know. He's full of surprises. And then the final prompt is to tag people. And like I said at the beginning here, I want everybody to do this. These are great. These are great questions. So if you're watching this and you have a BookTube channel, feel free to make this video because we can all stand to make these get-to-know-you videos more often than we do. So anyway, I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.